Chapter 6, Defending Yourself Against Dark Psychology. However much you might want to believe in the best of everyone, the truth of the matter is that we are all sitting ducks as far as manipulation goes. There are people in this world who leave their houses with only the worst of intentions. Their intentions are to hurt others and to get the most they can out of other people without giving anything in return. The knowledge of dark psychology presented in this book is not intended to be used to cause harm to others. Rather, the main objective is to help you recognize manipulation in its various forms for what it is and, if need be, to turn the tables to protect yourself. If you can manipulate a manipulator before they get the best of you, then that is a win for you and the rest of humanity. Factors that make you easier to manipulate. Besides knowing how to identify a predator, it also helps to understand what makes a person more vulnerable to psychological attacks. Simply put, there are sitting ducks that are closer to the line of fire than others. In Chapter 3, The ABCs of Brainwashing, we explored some of the factors that make a person more susceptible to brainwashing. However, we now know that brainwashing is just one of the ways through which people are manipulated. So, what makes a person vulnerable to all of the types of mind control and manipulation that exist? You are intelligent. You are probably confused by this one because you have always believed that smarter people are harder to outwit, right? Here's the thing though, intelligent people like to use logic to aid their decision-making process. Logic is easier to manipulate. Hence, intelligent people are more likely to be manipulated when you corner them with logical arguments. Less intelligent people are harder to convince with logic and tend to be more stubborn in the face of facts and scientific arguments. It is no wonder that a whole lot of people who have been scammed by con artists and Ponzi schemes happen to be people who are relatively smart and who you'd not expect to be easily fooled. The reason why this is often the case is because scammers know to appeal to this kind of people with facts and statistics. People who are less smart will be easily dismissive of anything that sounds like hullabaloo because they do not understand it. You are trusting and like to believe the best about everyone. Believe it or not, there are bad people in this world. There are people who leave their homes every morning with the intention of harming others. There are people who have no qualms about inflicting heartache and turmoil upon others. While you may be seated in your house worrying about mega-rich corporations who steal from the poor, there is a boardroom full of corporate big shots who are about to steal from the very poor that you are worried about. Simply put, not everybody shares in your conscience and your empathy. People are wired differently. People on the dark triad are wired even more different than you could ever imagine. When you meet a new person, it is noble to want to believe the best of them, but it is wise to expect to be surprised in a not-so-great way. Keeping your expectations of people to a minimum is a great way to protect yourself against everyone that is trying to get a piece of you. You are constantly seeking external validation. When it comes to manipulation, a person that is constantly seeking validation from others is akin to a sheep walking inside a lion's den. It is only a matter of minutes before the sheep is completely annihilated from the face of the earth. Manipulators are highly capable of noticing loopholes and exploiting them to their benefit. A big, glaring loophole for a manipulator is a lonely or insecure person who wants some companionship at whatever cost. Everybody is prone to feeling lonely every once in a while. We are social beings, and in the absence of company, we can often feel unloved and dejected. Do not seek external validation to the point where you make yourself a sitting duck for validation. It is okay for people to like you, and it is also okay if they do not like you. Liking yourself is good enough. When you have put on the armor of self-love and acceptance, you make it a little bit harder for predators to creep through your defenses. This is not to mean that any person who has been manipulated does not love themselves enough. However, in romantic relationships, you can really protect yourself if you have already internally validated yourself before going out there to the wolves. You have isolated yourself from family or friends. You've probably heard this story before: an elderly person who lives alone meets a charming young man on the internet. This online acquaintance quickly becomes a romantic interest. A few months down the line, the young man is saying all the right things and getting money wired into their bank account every month. A year down the line, the elderly woman or man has exhausted all their retirement savings and reeling from the discovery that their online love interest was just a con. While the victim wallows in embarrassment and wiped out finances, you can only wonder how the con managed to pull off a scam that is so simple and obvious that it is laughable. How can a person be so gullible, you wonder? It really is simple. It is easier to fool one person than it is to fool many. One person who obviously had some wisdom in him put it this way: you can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. This is a fact that predators know. It is much easier to hunt the lone antelope as it wanders in the savannah, alone and unprotected against all the dangers of the world. When you are surrounded by loving friends and family, you have a wall around you that keeps the predators out. Even when you are certain that you are in love and your partner is the best thing that happened to you, there will be that one person in your circle whose critical thinking has not been impaired by the passion of a new relationship. That one person will be your buffer against manipulation. It is no surprise that many people who manipulate and abuse their partners try to keep them away from their family. These manipulators and abusers know that if another party comes into the mix, their entire gig will be up. You are highly emotional. Emotions are great. The ability to experience happiness, joy, surprise, love, sadness, and every emotion of the human experience is a gift. For some people, this gift was given in spades. If you are the kind of person who goes through life feeling things more than thinking things, you are highly vulnerable to manipulation. Manipulators are able to fake emotions while saying and doing everything you need to hear. They do not even have to make sense, they just need to verbalize the things that you long for, and you are sold. Now, if you are highly emotional, there is not a whole lot of things you can do to change yourself. You are born that way, and you can only learn how to cope with being so highly emotional. That being said, you can always make sure that you stay conscious of your emotions so that they are not always dictating your decisions for you. You do not educate yourself. You do not need to go back to school to learn all the ways that people are trying to take advantage of you. A good thing about living in today's world is that information is freely available right at the fingertips. You only need to be willing to learn. A whole lot of people are taken advantage of because they do not know the tactics employed by manipulators. If you do not know that manipulators have a thing known as the mirroring technique, you might think that you and your date simply have amazing chemistry when this is definitely not the case. A good thing about manipulators is that most of their techniques are already in the books, and all you need to do is grab yourself a book and get to reading. This way, you will be able to stop any predator in his tracks before he gets too close to cause you any harm. In the same breath, the free availability of information means that you can always look up someone so that you authenticate their identity before they get a chance to grab anything from you. Gone are the days when you had to hire a private investigator to carry out a background check on someone. In today's world, it is possible to run a background check on someone on the internet and have the results ready within minutes. This could either be a paid background check or a quick cursory check of their social media pages. Fortunately, almost the entire world is on social media nowadays, and a majority of us love to overshare. Simple strategies you can adopt to protect yourself. Whether you consider yourself highly vulnerable or resistant to manipulation, it always helps to be safe rather than sorry. Luckily, it is possible to keep the narcissists, psychopaths, and high mocks at a safe distance in your life. How so? Psychopaths are present in our workplaces, in business transactions, in our personal relationships, and even in our families. Sometimes, you just cannot avoid a psychopath by virtue of the nature of the relationship that exists between the two of you. For instance, it might be impossible to ignore or avoid your psychopathic boss because you need to do your job, get paid, and advance in your career, or at least pay your bills. If your boss is a psychopath, you just have to deal with him somehow. You might, for instance, have to figure out a way of keeping your interactions to a bare minimum at most. However, if you ever have the choice to not deal with a psychopath, grab it and run. For instance, if you are starting to get to know a new person with the intention of dating them and start to realize some tendencies that match the psychopath criteria, run and do not look back. You do not need to stick around something or someone that is not good for you. Do not fall into the trap of thinking you can change a psychopath, sociopath, or narcissist into being a better person. Not only is this not your job, but it is also virtually impossible. For starters, the things that make people dark and manipulative are so deeply embedded in their psyche that they cannot just be removed and replaced with sugar and spice at will. Secondly, change is a personal choice that is made by an individual. A person that changes does so because they want to change and not because another person asked them to. Last but not least, if you are dealing with a psychopath and thinking that you can change them, you are essentially waging war against biology and genetics. Who do you think is going to win? Pay attention to actions more than you do words. Predators are very good with their words because words are their most powerful tools. Instead of focusing on what a person says, look at what they do. Did they fulfill the promise they made to you about doing a particular thing? Do they treat everyone as well as they want to make it sound? A simple way to check whether a person's actions match their words is by utilizing something that is referred to as the rule of threes. Here's how it works. If a person seems to tell a lie or makes a promise that they do not keep on one occasion, you may be dealing with a simple misunderstanding. If this happens a second time, there is likely to be a serious mistake that requires addressing. However, if there is a third occasion, then you are probably dealing with a liar. Lies are often the first sign of manipulative behavior. If you are able to identify this recurring pattern in your relationship or interaction, then you know you have yourself a situation on your hands. How you decide to handle this situation will mean the difference between freeing yourself from the jaws and drama of a manipulator or staying on for the most overwhelming ride of your life. Whenever possible, let the psychopath win, but not at your expense. The personalities that love to win are often aggressive and will go to great lengths to ensure that they trump all their competitors. If you ever find yourself facing a psychopath on a negotiation table, always go for the suggestion that guarantees a win for the both of you. This is an effective means of ensuring that you do not expend all your energy trying to fight off a psychopath who is trying to finish you. When dealing with people, be they saints or sinners, always listen to what your gut has to say. Scientists who have tried to explain gut instinct say that it is the body's reaction to an interspecies predator. This makes a whole lot of sense when you consider how sometimes you'll feel uneasy around someone you do not know only to later find out that that person was not a good person. Do not let your gut instinct go ignored when it is working so hard to prevent you from making a mistake. In many instances, psychopaths assume roles such as mentor, boss, supervisor, church leader, guardian, or even parent. While these roles are indeed noble, your gut feeling might be screaming that the church leader is not as trustworthy as he might want to make you believe. If this is the case, always give priority to the gut feeling. What your gut says is always a better bet than what you think you know. Do not allow yourself to get drawn into the games that psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, and other dark personalities play. Sure, you've read this book and are feeling particularly confident about your knowledge on the dark triad personalities. At the back of your mind, you believe that you have what it takes to take on a psychopath and win. What you do not know is that while you have just read this book, a psychopath has had his whole life to practice on his victims. Do not be drawn into their manipulations. It is not your job to entertain the psychopath. Your number one job when dealing with a psychopath is to protect yourself against their tricks.